Hello, Joel. Nice to meet you. I,
Hi, nice to meet you as well.
Oh my God, you haven't met in all this time. Yes.
yeah, it's been a while for me. I've seen some of the videos that you guys have done, but yeah,
Yeah,
a
well,
lot of catching up to do.
some are more substantial than others, but that's how it is.
Aha, there we go.
Good. Hi, Paul. Welcome.
Hi,
Hi.
Hello.
fellow travelers.
Indeed. So none of the usual suspects seem to be here today.
And a bunch of unusual ones.
Yeah, which is fine. Bentley.
Oh, we got a crowd today.
Yes.
I hope people have introduced themselves to Paul.
Not yet. Paul just got his camera working.
Just working out the tech. But
and actually, I guess I don't know who introduced Michael. Was it you that mentioned Paul's project in the thing and said, should we reach out? And I said, sure. So I just shot Paul an email, said, hey, if you want to show up today.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's super good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been reading like crazy and watching some of the earlier videos. So I'm thrilled to find what you guys are all working on. It's great.
Yeah, so I guess traditionally we have someone come in. We often kind of go around the room. People kind of say what they're working on. But also, Paul, if you have any questions from what you've read, we could do that. If you're comfortable jumping in and kind of just giving people a quick spiel of what you're doing, but if you're not, we're happy to go first. Do you have any preferences on all that?
No, I mean, the danger is I suspect there's way more to discuss than there is time, actually, because
we've been working together for about 2.5 years now, and we haven't solved a single thing. So,
well,
I would dispute that a bit, but
I'm exaggerating. Actually, Paul, we do tend to record these. I guess you saw that, so you don't mind if
I'm aware of that. Thank you.
I'll start the recording and then.
Joel, were you the one I heard talking about problem solving?
Yes. I'm definitely interested in like the argument specific space, but like as a second class citizen in like a problem solving type app kind of thing.
Yeah. So. I asked because my business career is around problem solving software for the manufacturing world. So there's a process that Ford Motor Company came up with called 8D, which is the 8 disciplines of problem solving, which is a step-by-step process of trying to get to root cause, make sure your corrective actions are successful. And, you know, it's just so it's both a reporting mechanism and a process. And my team built software to support that. So I was interested to hear that you were interested in that topic, because it only ever occurred to me the other day that so much of what I'm trying to do with QPark carries over from what I've done all these years with problem solving, because you're basically taking something everyone does in a very kind of generic, people do without thinking it through carefully. And it's just basically adding discipline to something that we all normally do in kind of, I don't want to say a haphazard way, but people reason and argue with each other and try to work through issues without structure and without a structured discipline process.
Right.
So I think that's a lot of what's missing, or a big piece of what's missing anyway. But so just for everybody, that's probably enough of my background. And what I've been working on recently, and what one of you noticed was probably about 15 years ago, I started thinking about what a lot of you are already working on, which is how do we somehow put some structure around our disagreements and try to be more productive with how we work through them, and came out with what I thought were a couple of insights that I hadn't seen anywhere else. And one of them was just the structural idea, which I've seen a lot represented now, this argument mapping idea that disagreements aren't just single disagreements, they're based on underlying disagreements, and that can spread out to a whole field of underlying disagreements. just like arguments are based, premises are based on underlying premises and all that. But the other one that I found really interesting was the idea of mutual revision, which is that instead of having a sequential conversation back and forth, which is what we always do, you instead say, here's what I think on this side. Here's what you think on this side. Now revise what you think based on what I think, right? Address what I have to say. And I'll do the same to address what you have to say. Dancing hands. Mark, thank you. And that should end somewhere. We ought to be able to do that in a way that at some point I could say, I'm happy with everything I have to say in light of what you have to say. And you're happy with everything you have to say in light of what I have to say. And then we can publish that and the audience gets everything instead of hearing a conversation back and forth where we're kind of jumping all around the map, a lot of redundancy, a lot of stuff doesn't get covered. And then it kind of arbitrarily ends wherever the end of the debate was. And much of the most important content was never discussed. It felt like there was something to do with this mutual revision idea where we could get a more complete picture. And so joining that structure idea with that mutual revision idea led to this general concept, which then I just kept working, listening to real debates in real life, and finally narrowed it down and honed it down to this thing I ended up calling Q Park. Reached out to a whole bunch of different people, and the one that hit was Brett Weinstein, who I don't know who knows who that is.
I think
I saw the video. I saw the video, so I only know it through him.
Yeah, he'd be described loosely, I guess, as a public intellectual. That sounds mean when I said loosely, but I mean, he's a guy that gives his opinion to the world for a living, basically. In the same vein as a Sam Harris, or like who are the guy? All of you, I'm sure, know. We probably all know who Sam Harris is, right? So, same kind of a thing. Sam Harris and Brett Weinstein have a relationship. They called each other friends. They had a big blow up over COVID policy. But I was talking to Brett before COVID even started. He was super interested in the idea. And I thought, well, here's somebody that can put this in front of people that might be able to do something with it. And that eventually led to Brett issuing a challenge to Sam Harris to engage him on their disagreements using the platform. And I put that out on my channel that prior to that had 30 views, I think, on something. And it got about 6,000 views because he tweeted something about it. And that's brought in some support and interest. But basically, aside from that, I think where you guys are is just wrestling with this stuff, thinking what are the best tools. But I think maybe if there's something that might differentiate my orientation from everything I've heard so far, and I haven't heard nearly everything, so correct me if I'm wrong, but I just think accessibility for me, I'm only interested in this if there's a tool that most people could or would use. And that is, unfortunately, the people who tend to be interested in these things, I don't want to say they're overthought, but it's easy to over-engineer. It's easy to shoot what all the potential features we would want if we were to picture the tool we wish would be used in the ideal world kind of thing. And I just feel like, I still feel like there's a sweet spot, and I don't think Q Park is it yet. Based on some trials I've done, I've already found out that even as simplified and dumbed down as I made it, it's still not simplified enough for various reasons. But I just think there is an opportunity to create something that is the parallel to social media, that is organized around the structure of disagreements in a way that could really make it just make the world better, I guess, but it could just make it much easier for people to get what I really think a lot of people want, which is just clear explanations for positions from people, both who agree with them and who disagree with them, and just try to get at clear explanations. And it's just incredibly hard to do that today. Like there's nowhere you can just go even if somebody's put forward as unless they've recently written a book, if somebody's recently written a book, or if you're dealing with a topic that has some agelessness to it. But if you're dealing with a shifting topic, like anything about COVID, like anything about, you know, the elections, or about Russian interference in elections, or about, you know, what's going on in Ukraine and what our policies should be, anything that's in moving, it's like, even if somebody is out there as an expert speaking on a topic, it's very difficult to just say, how are they backing up their position? It's hard to find everything in one place, because what you're getting is constant layers and updates and layers and updates and layers and updates as the landscape changes. So I told you it was dangerous that I could talk too much, but basically I feel like I have in mind a model right now, which is a leverage off of QPark that I think really addresses potentially. Well, it's the next direction I want to go with it. Let's put it that way. So
much to discuss.
Yeah, and I'd love to. And by the way, even individually, if any of you find, you know, hey, let's just have a one-on-one or something. I'm excited to have found all you guys. So I don't want to take over your meeting.
No. I'm tempted to take over, but maybe I should let others get into it first. Or do you?
Does anyone else have a response to that? I do have a quick one, but
go for it. Let's have the quick ones first.
I think we're very much aligned in all of that. Just to kind of mention as far as like people getting involved and stuff. A few of us, namely kind of me and Jamie Joyce from Society Library, have kind of like the participation of a lot of people is still a long-term goal, but in the meantime, it's using this technology to create that content, assuming that like 80-90% of the people are readers. And I guess if you do it well of organizing the sides, that may be the limit of participation for a lot of people. And actually, I think if you don't have really good summarization and techniques where they can dig in where they're interested in, then it'll be too much reading. So, and a lot of us are in different places in here where we're like, oh, we all kind of have the same big goals. We're just, you know, we think we disagree on the optimal path to get there. So
yeah,
it will be interesting to see as we work on our different experiments and learn from each other to do that. So yeah, I'm like right now I'm using these techniques or I'm planning on like building videos and written content that the structure is accessible, but the main exposure to get most people involved is something they're more traditionally familiar with. So,
yeah, I think the reader non-reader thing is a major issue for accessibility, especially, you know, the way the whole world's gone with podcasts and video.
I think Bentley meant reader author, but yes, it's also
consumer author participant. Yeah, so that majority of the people will be just taking the data in, and hopefully they would see. The one thing I think is important is that they see their position within the representation of positions. And as long as they can go in there and say, oh yeah, that actually expresses my opinion better than I could have, then that would be a success.
Yeah.
I'm definitely
in that. Maybe I can put a pin in, because it's one of the things I'm most excited about right now, or thinking about the most, is just that the individuality of I don't want to say argument, the individuality of viewpoint is when you say somebody can find their position, yes, but it's rare to find somebody who actually has the same viewpoint. Like I don't know what that is.
That's approval.
Oh, that's a good.
Yeah,
Okay,
so
okay,
sorry.
good.
So there's a.
No, that's
I-
good. I
we
know
probably
that.
need
I remember
a-
that from my kids' thing. Yeah, yeah.
We probably need a link, but yeah, like I agree, disagree, Matt. Let's wave hand
Oh, I like
signals
it.
to
Okay.
keep you from
Okay, good. Well, that makes me feel better. I thought Mark was making fun of me talking with my hands earlier. So
No. That's sorry. I should.
it was much better than that, actually.
I'm so used to this.
No, that's great. That's great. I like it.
It actually comes from the Occupy movement.
I'm gonna have to move this so I can. All right. Viewpoints are individualized, and well, like I said, let's put a pin in it because that's something I'd love to talk about a little bit more. Because the horrible part of that is it's almost impossible to show somebody else your own viewpoint. Like we build our viewpoints. I'm going into it. We build our viewpoints piece by piece from stuff that we pick up over time.
Yep.
And we don't even know, after a while, they become like a composite. Like we can't even remember how we put them together, but we see this composite viewpoint. And then we sit down with someone and say, oh, let me show you my viewpoint. But we can't just pick it up and show it to them. If we could, then we'd all understand each other so much better. All we can do is take little pieces off of ours and give it to them one at a time. And all they can do is integrate that into the viewpoint they already have. And so I don't know, I'm sure you've all experienced, you wouldn't be here, the frustration of thinking, man, if I just sit down with this person, obviously we can come to some agreement. They're reasonable, I'm reasonable. We care about the same things. We're looking at the same world. We both, we use the same basic epistemology. It's not a problem with that. It's why the heck? Well, no, I'm not saying everybody does, but I'm saying I've been in the situation where I'm with somebody else that does. Yeah. And even so, you'd think all the elements are here for us to come to agreement. And I think it just occurred to me the other day that the reason is because you can't show them your viewpoint. All you can do is share piecemeal. And that is, to me, that's the problem. So part of this model I'm kind of excited about is that it is an individualized viewpoint model. So what I can say to a person, like I said earlier, the only way you can get somebody's viewpoint that I'm aware of in reality is if they recently published a book on that topic or published it and things haven't changed much since then. Because then you can sit down and really get in depth. What's the structure of their argument? What are the details? What are the references? And you can walk away and go, oh, I see where this person's coming from. Right. There's some depth to my understanding of their viewpoint now.
It's a snapshot.
Right. It's a snapshot and it could change tomorrow. And so it should change tomorrow if we're all trying to work through reality as reality is unfolding and changing circumstance and new evidence and all that stuff. So it just hit me that there's a way to model this correctly, and it doesn't have to be very complicated, where if I'm a person, I can build my viewpoint virtually in a way that links the important let's say on a topic in a way that links in the other important topics that contribute to that viewpoint, whether those are ones that I myself have studied closely or whether I'm kind of proxying to somebody else that I consider an expert on something else, and updated over time as new information comes in a way that people can see the updates and say, oh, I'm following this guy, so I'm really curious about, this new thing, but can also just see the entire picture too. Like this is how it stands today. And I think it's the QPark model I started with a couple of adjustments, which are actually ironically subtractions. I'm taking things away from the QPark model, and I think it's becoming this representation. So
I'm really curious.
I'd love to walk through that with any of you that are interested in the details, because the devil's in the details, obviously.
Totally. I'm really curious because obviously we have the same perception of the core problem. I mean, everything you've described for me is the linchpin of the problem of communication. We spend a lot of time on argument modeling in this community because we're trying to get a global graph of arguments and how they enhance one another, and that's a big part of what we're doing. But I think that argument modeling in some way is secondary to concept modeling. Or of course, arguments are higher level concepts. Everything's a concept, right? Or in topic modeling terms, everything's a topic. But the whole thing is, how do we represent distinguish, evolve, and represent the evolution of concepts at both individual and collective level, because we use terms to designate concepts in my mind when I'm emitting, and in your mind when you're hearing, and vice versa. And we assume that we have a shared experiential base that is solid enough to have a confluence of meaning, which is true in some cases and isn't true in others. Ambiguity exists. And how do you represent that? So I have my own approach, which is not a product yet. It's very much, it's been a theoretical construct on my side, but it's getting more and more precise. And I'm really curious to compare approaches, because obviously you've built yours. Are you familiar with formal concept analysis?
No.
Okay, that's worth looking into. There's this notion, formal concept analysis is decomposing concepts in terms of putting concepts on a lattice. Like often you'll find, oh yeah, this concept is a subtype of this concept and a subtype of this concept, but it's actually a subtype of many concepts. And in a way, what you have are defining predicates. And most concepts end up being the intersection of defining predicates. And when you're introducing a new concept, what you're doing is adding a new predicate, a new distinguishing predicate to an existing abstraction, an existing point in the lattice, and then you're splitting that point in the lattice into follows or does not follow that predicate. But that predicate could be applied to other points in the lattice and create new concepts as well. And it's a lattice, so you've got meet and join, union, intersection.
This is where
this is a field.
I get it. And see, this is what I mean by the people who are excited by this stuff are drawn to philosophy and are drawn to detailed analytics, formal models, all that kind of stuff. And that's where we lose the other 98% of the population. so somehow we need to have models that account for those things. But don't get so caught up in them that we lose everybody.
The question is, what is I think formal concept analysis is an accurate model of what we're trying to do. The question is, how do we get people to interact with it so they don't have to deal with the theory of it, because theory of it is formal math, and who does formal math? Except a few weirdos like me. We're weirdos. It's fine. I'm okay with that. I don't expect everybody to do formal math.
I'm a math major, but I left it at the final exam. So
I see. I'm not that much more advanced. I started a master's and didn't finish it, but I'm still reading and studying because I enjoy it. But but my master's was my major was it was like we had two streams, and one was more formal and theoretical, and one was more applied. And I went for the most theoretical I could, because that's how my mind works. But I agree with you. We can't hit people with formal concept analysis, but I do think it is the underlying model of what's happening. What's my intuition of the basic building blocks of conversation? I might be wrong, and I'm really curious about yours, but my intuition is we're dealing with distinctions. We're saying, here's a common abstraction that we feel we already agree upon, maybe wrong. And here's, well, yes, but it's a sub kind of that has this property. So the distinction, when I'm saying, I'm not sure we mean the same thing, what we're saying is maybe we have a different common abstraction, and then we just go up the ladders of abstraction. But most of the time it's saying, well, I include or I exclude things that you don't, and that's by extension, right? We start with examples because that's how the mind works, really. But then at some point we'll want to get a bit more precise, and we'll try to come up with a rule that says, well, this is what I was including that you weren't, or vice versa. And because that's information condensation, it's hard work. It's not the starting point, but it should be the ending point, because it's a way to communicate. It's saying, here is what characterizes these elements in somewhere in the symmetric difference of our respective understandings of what's going on, so that we can say, here's this side of the predicate, that side of the predicate, and the common abstraction. And if we're using the term first naive of the distinction, most of us will find out, oh, I actually meant this branch, or I actually meant that branch, or I actually meant both. But my fundamental intuition is that before you've discussed the distinction, the naive term is not the same as the abstraction term that encompasses explicitly both branches of the distinction. That's an abstraction, but it's an explicit abstraction. And so if you've made claims in terms of the naive term, you probably have to revisit. And for most people, it would be very easy to say, oh, I usually meant this branch, or I usually meant the abstraction.
Absolutely.
But collectively, you'll find out that different people will think their statements will fall on one side of the other. And so whenever you're pointing at a concept, you're pointing at, again, a snapshot, a point in time. These are the predicates I took into account when I was enunciating this claim involving the concept. And then you see, well, this claim evolved to, this definition evolved, and now it includes this, includes that distinction, and now where do I situate myself with respect to that subsequent evolution? And where does the community collectively? And that way, I'm not so much into the author reader distinction, because I think anybody can at some point say, that's not how I see this. And the question is how to lead somebody who doesn't have formal training with, you know, good old wizard interfaces and questions and answers to say, okay, how is your definition different? And some will, and something we've spoken a lot about in this group is what we call progressive formalization. People are not all good at being formal. So that means we must accept informal natural language, examples, anything else. And
if you want to be accessible, you do for sure. Yeah,
exactly. And make it a collaborative crowdsourced process to translate that into, not sure. Okay, interesting. I think we should make it a collective process to guide people towards situating themselves into a more formal structure that they may or may not understand. That's not important. What is important, I think, is being able to allow people to identify, here's this term, it's used for this concept and that concept, which have nothing to do with this other. And even within that one, there's all these sub-nuances. And this, we find, is a very common point of disagreement. And have statistics about that. That's my goal.
Yeah.
Have statistics about this ambiguity is one that people actually stumble upon. So when people are writing, we could look over their shoulder and say, you're using this term, people won't get you. And you mean this or that, and please take position. And maybe that term will be less ambiguous, or maybe just keep that term, but make a little annotation saying you mean this one. And here's the definition you're using. And so that if you use the formal pointer to the formal definition, you can also follow its evolution and update as needed. And if you're a reader, come across a text which may or may not have these annotations and say, this is how I read it. This is how somebody else comes and this is how I read it. So we can see it's ambiguous because many people are interpreting it differently. And again, have the interpretation be explicit to have.
I think what might be an interesting experiment at some point, what I'd love to do with you if possible, is I'd like to lay out what I think is the most simple possible model, which as of this moment, I think works. Like, I think it does everything it needs to do.
Please do.
Which I couldn't have said 2 weeks ago even. I mean, so I'm
please do. I mean, if you have something simpler than what I have, I'm curious.
It's going to be missing things, but it's the old 80-20 rule, right? It's because the problem we have, the social problem we have is, well, it's a word that gets overused, right? It's what's the word that everybody says? Everything is a existential threat. Social problem we have is, I think, existential threat.
Yes,
which is our increasing inability to see each other's perspectives.
Correct.
And nothing as complex as that is going to crack into a large enough group of the population. You know what I mean? What you're describing to me is a thing that I would love to get into and understand and think through how it applies to the specific case. And you know, I'm a data modeler by original training, and it's all about how do you take this information and represent it accurately.
Yep.
And the details are real and they're right. So I don't want to sound like anything I'm saying is a knock on anything you're saying. Well, I just part of what I see an opportunity having run into you guys is, I think you may be able to point my flaws out very quickly, but I want to take advantage again of the space to do that, because I'm not sure who and I have to step away a second and find my phone, because it could be that my wife's trying to contact me, and that'll be the back of my brain this whole time until I find it. So let me just step away real quick. I'll be right back.
It's cool. Hey, I hope you two are having fun. Because I'm happy.
Yeah, Joe and Michael are
Yeah, I enjoy this.
interested.
So,
I know.
yeah.
Yeah, like taking it all in. Yeah, 100%.
And maybe you have something to contribute that
I'd be curious to focus on or like see what his the
yeah. I'm
he could
really
lay out a
curious
simple
too.
model or go through his tool. Honestly, I had to sign up to see his tool outside of the video. I didn't sign up, so.
I think you have to contact for a wait list. That's what I saw, so I didn't do it, but I would also like to see it.
Yeah, I think we're all curious.
All right. My daughter is, no, I'm not going to share that because this is going to be on the internet, but,
Yes.
all right. Where were we?
You're telling us about your approach.
So let me just lay out this model then, if you all don't object, which is incredibly simple. So there are questions, and I think it's really important to build around questions, not assertions, because questions define an area of scope, and they put us in the same place, right? So, and that's Q Park. The first Q is for questions and a question, and questions have a lot of potential problems that you've mentioned about definition and scope, reference material, but that's the place to make sure we're really both where we think we are, right? Are we looking at the same question? And the whole reason that we have to agree to a question is that puts us in that same place. Now, whether we do a good enough job of really defining that place or not, or whether we have to go back and revisit it and get,
but
get
I
clear.
agree totally.
Those are all subtleties, but the question puts us both in the same place, and then our positions put us in different places within that domain, right? Even, and maybe our position is we're not ready to take a position, or maybe we're leaning yes, or maybe we're 100% confident yes, or whatever. So positions can have some. But when I say questions are global, in Q Park, questions were negotiated between two individuals, right? Everything was always within the dyad, within two individuals that disagreed, and what part of what I subtracted was that. So I now picture a global database, and a question is simply, the verbiage of the question makes it a unique question, and it might be supplemented. It needs to be supplemented with some definitions, some scoping, whatever. So there, but I don't want to get too detailed. But the important idea is questions are universal. Doesn't matter who created them. They're accessible to anybody else to jump into, right? Everything else is individualized, like everything else. So there is no collective intelligence. Everything is individualized. So in any individual, that could be a group, it could be a individual human being, it could be an AI, but we don't need to go there right now. Takes a position on a question, and that's point in time, as we'll talk about the evolution. So in a point in time, I take a position, however that position is defined. And I can stop there, or I can go further and give what I'm now calling an explanation as opposed to an argument, which is just an explanation for that position. That's it. complete no formalization to that at all. Let somebody, it could be a recorded video, it could be audio, it could be written. Think about a Substack article. It can include links from anywhere. It can embedded video, whatever. It's basically me writing an op-ed on why I'm a yes on this particular question, right? That's how you can think of it. So we immediately think, well, you should break that down, but you don't have to. If I want to, I could write a 500-word thing, or I could write 3 sentences that are nothing but 3 assertions that if they were all true, it's obvious that you should be here. But embedded in, I'm trying to think of the right order to introduce this stuff, but embedded in that explanation, I can have a reference to another question. As simple as I can reference a tweet inside my Twitter, right? Inside my tweet, I can just put the link, the web link to another tweet, and it just gets embedded there. And I can do the same thing in my explanation. So if I always use this example of Proposal X is a local ballot initiative. I'm in favor of Proposal X. And I think Proposal X is going to increase our property values. And I think it's going to drive revenue to our town. And I think it's going to, be inexpensive to implement. And maybe those are maybe I've worked those questions out independently. I've decided, for reasons that will become obvious as people learn how this works, that rather than put all that reasoning in my explanation for Prop X, it's useful for me to separate them out. Will Proposal X increase our property values? That's a separate question. I'm a yes on that. Here's my explanation for that. Again, free form, right? And if I've done that work, then back in my Prop X explanation, I just am referencing those 3 other questions where I've already given my explanations. So we have that structure that everybody understands, but we don't try to formalize it. We don't try to overthink it. We just say, let people link what it makes sense to link, right? So if I'm giving my reason for, maybe I'm writing my own explanation for why I'm a yes on Prop X, and I'm in sync with you on the effect on property values. So I'm just going to I'm going to endorse your explanation there. That's another thing you can do in the system, is endorse somebody else's explanation. And I'm just going to point to that explanation. So now, but I don't buy your other reasons. So I have other reasons, right? So my reason is, my own reasoning is unique. My own explanation is unique, but it borrows from that little individual component. All right. So now we have universal questions that are linked simply by their usefulness in explanations. You have they're individualized and they're point in time. The explanations are point in time as well. So I can come in and update my explanation when new information comes in. You could literally dial back on the system and say, well, what changed? What changed versus the explanation from a week ago, and see that. QPark has.
What happens to the endorsement then?
The endorsement is point in time of the thing that it was when it was endorsed.
Exactly. So you'd need to renew the endorsement, which makes sense to me.
No, you don't have to, but you certainly can.
Yeah.
So you as a user who's endorsed my position on a question, my explanation, would be notified if I updated it.
Exactly.
But anybody who's reading your thing is going to be pointed by your endorsement to the thing you endorsed, right? Correct. And then they might be notified, hey, that thing has been updated, but the updated thing isn't what you endorsed, right? So you're always seeing the time slice that was what it was at the point the action was taken.
Yep.
And technically this isn't incredibly difficult, and you can almost imagine. This is one of the things Brett Weinstein loves about it, because he was very early on certain things that have turned out to be true. Whether or not he's right on many other things, who knows? But they've at least changed significantly in their in the public's acceptance of them. I shouldn't say I know it's true, but he said things that were very unpopular at one point, and he backed them up. And he would love it if people could turn the dial back and see what he was saying, not only what he was saying at the time, but why he was saying it at the time. So you can imagine that kind of a dial being there. But take that aspect away. You've got endorsements. You've got, so I think the thing I'm missing 2 things. One is challenges, which is just an ability for anybody to challenge somebody to take a position on a question, and or give an explanation for their position on a question. So that's sort of how you pull somebody else in. And what I was doing in QPark was I was forcing both sides to agree on the structure of the disagreement at each step in order to move forward, in order to move deeper. And I realized there's no need for that, because I don't have to fully buy into the structure of your argument. I'm going to structure my argument different than you are. And QPark said, let's struggle together to find a common structure of the disagreement. And then once we've done that, let's go further.
And how does it do that?
And how did it do that?
Yeah, because I don't see the common structure of this. Okay,
well, before we go there, let me. Yeah. I went off on what QPark did that's different. So let me tell you how the new model works. The new model lets me challenge you anywhere I want to, right? And that's more real life. More real life is you have this full explanation, but I think I see the Achilles heel in your argument. And I just want to pin you down on that thing, right? Yep. So I want to call it the question that identifies that Achilles heel, and then challenge you publicly to address that thing. And then I want everybody else to pour in and endorse that challenge, right? Or maybe make the same challenge in effect. Sounds good. Right?
Yep.
And so you grow volume around, hey, if you're going to be a public advocate for this, you have to address this.
Yes, that's fundamental.
Yeah. So
that part I totally agree with. There's a lot I have issues with, but there's that part. Yes.
Okay. And I can finish the model, I think, with one more piece. And that's it's a little bit of a nuance, but it's important. And that is, you need to be able to shift the question. And for reasons you were talking about earlier, is that as you get in, and this QPark was weak with this too, is as you dive in, you start to realize, either we're talking about slightly different things, or there's a better way to phrase this or frame this or scope this or whatever. So you need to be able to take the work you've done and not change the question, because the question is universal and it's still there, but you need to be able to define the better question and take that jump over so that people can follow that, right? So yes, this was my explanation at the time, but at that time I was pointing to a different question, so you have that, the model incorporates all that. But aside, I think that's everything. And so if you picture this model with any given topic today, but let's just take Prop X to keep anything controversial out of it. I should be able to go into the system, find that proposal that's on the ballot. I know I'm talking about the right proposal at the right jurisdiction in the right time frame, because that's part of the scope of the question. I can turn to the yes side and find the most endorsed explanation for the yes side, or the top 3 most endorsed explanations. I can turn to the no side and see those, and I can dive into those as I wish. And I could also see which are the most referenced underlying questions that matter here, which is usually what I want to do, right? I want to go, yeah, I know all about all those arguments. I've heard them a million frickin' times, but would somebody please explain the property value thing to me? So I can find that and dive into that. And what do I get there is the best yes for the property value argument and the best no again. So I think it has, I think what I just explained, anybody could understand and use, like 5th graders could understand this and use it. And I don't know that there needs to be more than that if it's built intuitively, which I think it very much can be, except the right kind of guidelines at each step to say, hey, before you write that question, think about these couple of things to make sure it's really a good question. Don't load your question. Don't say, are all Republicans idiots or something, but, and don't leave the scope ambiguous. So, what I mean, guidelines, there's guidelines for using it right. And some people come in and use it terribly, but my belief is the people that use it well would draw attention like crazy, because I believe this is what people are looking for. Like, I don't think we're alone in looking for good explanations for positions. I just think there's nowhere it can be found today.
Totally true.
So that's the model, pretty much.
Others want to react before I dive in?
Thank you for sharing.
Simple, right?
Yes.
Really, I'd want to say that for sure. And I'm interested in seeing the user interface and user experience of how users do actions. Because like you said, if they can use it, and the users that use it well, and I'm curious on, well, how can we get users to use it well better is something I'm very interested in, especially when it comes to the spatial visual representation of the different arguments and which ones we disagree on, for example. So I'm definitely curious on how you do that.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's all sketch work right now. But is anybody a front end designer? Yeah. Okay. We might want to talk about it a little bit.
I'm not,
because like I built QPark, but I was way outside of my expertise in building it. I learned what I had to learn in order to build it. So
yeah, I'm not the best at it, but I know some people
yeah,
that are also interested in debate software that are willing to help out. So.
I have a little bit of experience, but not much.
I'm not like a front end expert, but I'm very interested in making interfaces good, easy to use, and feel like I can roughly evaluate that at least. I also wanted to say, thank you for sharing your model. I think it's a lot of good things in there. My initial, I actually, in our Slack, I don't know if you got in there or not, but I put down a couple notes after watching your video, and one of the things that I maybe slightly dislike, but it's like I think it could be useful for different use cases.
Don't sugarcoat anything, please.
All right. I guess just the it seems to focus more on like or it doesn't seem to decouple the like people's perspectives from like an unbiased view of things. Like I like the idea of saying like these are supports and these are critiques, and then people individually like scoring those to say like, yeah, I think that's good, or I think that doesn't really make sense. But like you can look at it outside of the view of people's perspectives, I guess. This is unapologetically and specifically not that. So that is, I think, a key difference between a lot of what I see out there is that attempt to crowdsource, to try to meld a million perspectives into one meaningful, something that tells you something. And I've come to the conclusion that will never tell you anything. I mean, it can be a good source of, like, do you know what Kialo is? Kialo.
You guys must run across that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
To me, that's the perfect example of that. And some of these other things, right? Exactly. So, and I get what they're doing. And I thought to myself, the most useful thing for that is I'm a student preparing for a debate, and I want to make sure I've put all the arrows in my quiver, there's not arrows I'm missing, sort of. But I think collectivizing these things washes them out. So that's one of the things I said at the beginning. I don't think you can escape that. When I said I can't show you my worldview and you can't show me your worldview, people have worldviews, and people are trying to convince other people share their worldviews with each other. And so I don't think you can ambiguate what? No, damn it. I don't think you can take that apart from the individual. Disambiguate?
I don't know if it's disambiguate. I don't think
it doesn't matter.
Decouple is probably a better term. Yes.
Decouple. Thank you.
Decouple. Yeah.
Interesting. I think you can, but that's going to be another fascinating conversation. Okay. Are you familiar with IBIS?
No.
Okay. IBIS is a very old way to represent conversations.
Okay.
And it's been shown to work well enough. I have issues with IBIS. I'm not saying IBIS is a solution. I'm just saying it's interesting to see what worked and what didn't work with IBIS. And
is it IBIS?
IBIS, and the key textbook for that is by Jeff Conklin, and it's called Dialogue Mapping, and it's there on Amazon as an ebook. And it's easy to
Okay. Yep.
And the basic technique was start with they call it an issue, but it's the same as a question, and then have positions, and then have pro and con arguments, so that way it's a bit different. But at any point, you can re-inject a question, and that's really important because questions open the field in a way that pros and cons like build up the antagonism, whereas questions like, okay, what do we do there? And there, that intuition that questions are central to convergence as opposed to the pro con. No, yes, it's there. I'm totally with you, and it's been backed up. It's been done, and it works well. They have the pro con aspect, but they temper it with questions. What I think IBIS is missing, and your model is I think may be missing, is ranking. When I'm saying, and let me go back. If
I didn't mean to,
this is good for, you said, bringing money into the community, for example, of building income in the community. It can be good, and maybe this other one is better. So I can saying I endorse, I think, yes, this would help, and I can think this would help more. So I think it's important to be able to explain why would this bring more than that one. It's and multi-criterion, because there's many criterion, and I may say this is great for this, but it's horrible in this other way, and I still oppose it for all these reasons, right?
Right.
It's I think
my premise is
bring criteria. And one second, I'm not done.
Yeah, sure.
And this is where it's important. A question can apply to many proposals. Like a criterion of evaluation applies to many proposals. You're saying this proposal, that proposal, where there's a question that's common to them that allows me to rank them. And it's not a tree. The questions, you seem to say, and this is something I'd like to clarify with you, that the question, okay, it's just text. The questions belong to no one. The explanations belong to someone. The proposals belong to someone, hence.
Positions and explanations,
Yeah, but if I'm plugging a question to a position, is its anchor point part of the question, or
it's just the question? It's just the question. You only link a question. I spent a lot of time on that because I got too bogged down in, are you linking a question, or are you linking a question, or are you linking a position, or are you linking an explanation? And the answer is you're just linking the question, because whatever your perspective is on that question, the system already knows if you've taken one. So if I'm looking at the model, right, this is a universal model, and you look at the model through filters. If I'm looking through my Paul Ahrens filter and I see Paul Ahrens' explanation links this question, well, it's the right assumption that whatever Paul Ahrens said on that underlying question is what I'm linking. So that takes care of itself effectively.
Okay. Yeah, but if I say, okay, one second. If I say, is it bringing value to the community, or is it bringing income to the community? And that's my question. That's just text. And then I have a position in how proposal A brings value, and that's my answer to the question. Proposal A brings value because, and then I have my answer to proposal B brings value. And so both of those are answers to the question, but really not to the question, to the question proposal link.
Yeah, well, that doesn't matter because my explanation, whatever it is that you want to point out to in my explanation that doesn't work for you, can be framed as a question. So whether that's, I think it's overthinking to think, okay, is this a question of fact, or is this a question of emphasis, or is this a question of linkage? And whether or not something's relevant.
I don't think it's overthinking at all.
Well, no, I understand. No, I don't mean, again, not in a negative way. But for purposes of this model, you just take whatever it is and make it a question. So you have to give me an example that I can't do that with, and then I'll.
Okay, I'm trying to. I have positions A and B. Okay.
Now, so we got two individuals on one question.
You have an original question. What should we do for X?
Okay.
And then somebody says we should do A, and somebody else says we should do B. And
okay, that's not. We're already in trouble.
Why?
Because I would say, should we do A about X? That's my question.
Okay.
Or even should we do A rather than B? It's you want to avoid questions whose answers go in that many different directions, right? Like you don't ask a question where your position would take a paragraph. You want to word questions in a way, ideally, I've struggled with this a little bit, but ideally, I can give some exceptions, but ideally they should be yes, no questions. And I think they almost always can be yes, no questions. But you do have things like, what's the expected cost? What's the expected cost of this proposal? And my position might be less than $1 million, and your position might be greater than 2 million. Well, those are, so you can frame questions. I think technically what you're going for is clear demarcation or segmentation of answers that are non-overlapping or something like that. But yeah.
Okay.
So we may be looking at questions differently than each other.
Clearly, and that's helpful. That helped. Thank you. That's clarified things for me. But then, if the questions are, should we do A for X and should we do B for X, which is your rephrasing, right? There's nothing obvious connecting the X. So if I'm interested in what are all the options of what we could do for X.
Okay, we have a stranger in the house. The problem is we have a stranger in the house. I think we should try to get the stranger out of our house, and you think we should shoot them.
Right.
Okay.
But we have a stranger in the house is a phrase which takes its meaning from a context, which takes its meaning. What I'm saying is, for the question to be self-contained, and we talked a lot about self-contained question in this group, you have to have the full context, which makes the question potentially long and heavy. And maybe that's fine, and maybe that's what you want, and I've no problem with that. But I'm saying this house and this date at this address, and because otherwise, in another house, it might be a different situation. For whatever.
100% true. That's true. Yep. So you want to do as much as that as you can with a single sentence that ends in a question mark, but you will oftentimes need to supplement that, as I said before, with some scope and some clarification. And all of that together makes a unique question. So And
what I'm saying is, somebody else comes at the same question, but they'll express it slightly differently. And it will be very hard to know. Yes, sure. But it'll be very hard to know that these questions are related, which I think you would want to know, because I think coming to the system, I want to know what are all the questions that contain proposals, because to me, these are distinct things, right? But what are all the questions that are about what can we do about X? And
exactly right. Exactly right. So
and part of the language of the question, that means there's no independent object X to which you point to. That means every time you have a different phrasing. And that means there's nothing telling you that those are related at all. And I see that as a problem.
Yeah, I agree. That would be a problem. And this is exactly, but this is the real life. This is the world, right? We're trying to model, at least I'm trying to model the world as it is, right? So oftentimes there is that potential ambiguity about, are we talking about the same thing? And some large percentage of problems with communication happen because people aren't talking about the same thing. So clarifying the question is necessary. And you're going to have times when people think they're talking about the same thing and they really aren't. All those things we already talked about.
You're talking about the reverse process, where they're talking about the same thing and they cannot even know it because there's not full text. Like,
right, which again is the guideline. So if you were entering into my system and we want to just figure out what to do about the person in the house, and we know we have a disagreement about it, I might come in and say, should we shoot the person in the house? I'm a no. We should not shoot the person in the house. So should we shoot the person in the house? Well, what do I need to add to that to make sure people know what the heck we're talking about? Well, you just said it. Which house, which person? That'd probably be enough, the person who is in our house on Tuesday, whatever, in our stupid hypothetical. So there's enough now to that question that anybody that finds that question and takes the time to read that little bit of scoping is not going to be confused that we're talking about somebody else's house.
But my point is, I'm coming to the system. I come with the situation. How do I find that question? Because there's nothing guiding me to find the question except bloody text search, which will find all these other similar situations.
I totally agree. And this is where social comes into it for sure, is because gravity will form around the questions that people are interested in. Another answer to that
only
is
if they can find them.
Well, obviously, yeah, no, that's right. But oftentimes it's like, how does someone find a Twitter thread? They find it because lots of people are looking at it, or because they get links to it completely
because of
outside
popularity,
of the
because of a popularity power law. But that means a lot of important reflections get ignored.
Yeah, well, the important reflection is ignored is what happens which you can't do in Twitter. You switch from the yes position to the no position and see what the best no is, which you can do in this system. But we're doing what happens, right? we're modeling what the problem with trying to work through something difficult right now, because
I thought we're trying to improve the situation.
I'm taking threads I'm taking rabbit trails right now, and I'm forgetting the main thing we were talking about that's so important, because we started trying to get you have a concern about related questions, the potential mess of related questions, and how do you find the right question, and how do people condense on the question that's most useful for the most number of people, is the best way I can put it, because who's to say what the best thing?
Yeah, I'm afraid that this is error prone. That the most popular has nothing to do with the best.
I agree, but what I'm saying is and again, this is a nature, we're doing different things, which is fine. I think that all we can ever hope for is for people to better find what others are saying and understand where they're coming from.
Yes.
So we can't take them and say, no, come to this better way to define it. So if that's where people are, then that's where you can join them, and you can try to lead them away. Remember, my last function in the system is to say, if somebody says, well, what does Paul Ahrens have to say about this? They might discover that what I have to say is, I think this other thing is a better question. So I think we should be having our conversation over there. And if people agree with that, they can shift their conversation over there and join me on the better question and bring their history along with them. I think that's all you can do, and then let people do what they're going to do. Yeah.
I have, when I'm saying popular and good are not the same, I'm not saying, people are stupid, blah, 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 because that's not the argument I'm trying to make. I'm saying if the way people can discover things is according to popularity, then they won't even be exposed to learning that there's alternatives that could become more popular. And this is what I'm saying is deeply flawed. I think they need to have the ability to say, okay, I do want to deep dive, or I do want to random search, or I do want to do whatever to look at the options that were not examined enough yet to know if these have value. And unless you have a way to connect the related questions, which, as you describe, I don't see, I think that's a problem. And they have a more fundamental problem, which...
Couldn't you just, sorry, I was just going to say, couldn't you just use some sort of like algorithm, like similarity, meaning, similarity, semantic?
And I've played with them. They're good at certain things and terrible at others. They're certainly not reliable. They'll miss stuff. But yes, sure, I'm all for it. But what is important is that if I'm the author of a new, currently obscure position, and I use similarity metric to say, okay, this is the most popular question or explanation on this, I need to be able to explicitly link it to say, hey, this is also answering the same basic situation, which is what
you can do that.
The question.
Yeah. That's that last feature. I may not have, no, I mean, I said it earlier, but anyone can take a question and say, I think this is the better question. So rather than saying I'm taking a position on this, it's saying this is, so you challenge me to say, should we shoot the guy in the house? And I say, I think the better question is, should we get him out of our house? Maybe. I mean, I might be able to do that, in which case we might be talking past each other if we decide, well, we have to decide, is there a way to define this in a way that we're actually going to engage or not.
I'm really feeling you're disguising positions into questions from my ontology of what's a question, what's a position.
Sure, yeah.
And that means what you have is universal positions, and the whole debate between positions will be transferred to debate on questions. I don't think we've gained that much. And the last thing I wanted to say is my concern with a lot of processes like this is they don't scale well, because if everybody comes up with their formulation of the position, even if it's wrapped in a question, same thing, there's no way to group and refactor and to limit the number of positions. And right now we have a situation where we have disinformation that takes the form of flooding the information landscape with shrapnel, and being able to cluster and group and say, you know, these two proposals, again, wrapped in questions or not, but they're effectively proposals, are pretty much the same except this. So for me, a goal, and I was so excited when you said, oh, we need to be able to converge, because for me, one aim of convergence is to reduce the number of proposals to be read, because there's going to be so many if all we have is personal expression of, or universal expression of, but they come from someone. And right. if we cannot say, let's take these two, and here's a reformulation of what they have in common, and then where they differ becomes a sub-question. And that way we can have few big deduplicated and refactored broad options. So we can talk about those. And if there's further details on which we can refine, that becomes a separate question, and only people interested in that level of detail. But it doesn't split the vote on.
Well, but who is? Does that imply a librarian or
no, because I don't believe in those approaches personally. What I'm saying is
we agree on that for sure.
And though I respect the work of Jamie and who's doing it with a librarian-centric approach, but I think it has its uses, but that's not what I'm trying to build. What I'm trying to build is make an explicit, here's my proposal for refactoring. Here's how I would find what's common between my proposal and your proposal. And you'll say, oh, but you missed that dimension, and you'll counter propose a new synthesis until we have a refactoring that we can both endorse. And then, okay, we both endorse it. Hence, it becomes the new target that is the refactoring.
Yeah, or that just doesn't happen.
What if that doesn't happen? Then which can totally happen, of course, then people will have to read both, and somebody else can come with a refactoring. And if we don't agree, it may become more popular. And here, popularity is valuable. If a lot of people think the refactoring is more valuable than the other one, they've read both. Okay.
Yeah. Well, I tend to agree with that idea of popularity as well. I mean, what else do we have? Because the parties are interested, right? They're too fundamentally biased. And so you're putting into a vote essentially of what's effective. But again, same idea in my model with does the crowd follow to the other question? And the fact that I've shifted to another question doesn't mean we can't both continue to participate. We're probably going to link many of the same underlying questions, or we can call each other out to underlying questions. I think that the sense I'm getting is that I am just fast forwarding past a lot of detail in how do you define questions in a way that will make this model effective, that you've given a lot of thought to.
Using a different model, I guess.
Yeah. So that's good.
So definitely a conversation to be continued. I think there are points on which we're different. There are many points on which we agree, and I think we have more in common, and we'll gain by aligning.
Yeah, I think the thing that I'm currently excited about, and anytime I'm excited about any of this stuff, it's a mixed bag because I don't have time for any of it, which is another theme I've heard from several of you, that, you know, there's my real life, and then there's what I'd like to be making progress on when it comes to all this stuff. So unfortunately, the more excited I'm about the idea, the harder it is to fit into my life, but the higher the urgency to do it. But anyway, what currently has me really excited, at least for the moment, is I feel like in order for anything to have any kind of impact, it has to meet a threshold of simplicity. And I feel like this is as simple as I feel like I've thrown away everything that can be thrown away with, and this could still work. For average people, like I said, for people who are just going, like literally what you cannot do today. I mean, pick a topic, and I cannot find the best or a really good, complete, up-to-date explanation for why somebody supports that next to a complete, up-to-date explanation for someone who doesn't, much less where each of those deals with the major points in the other one. And to me, this feels like a model that all it would take was somebody to start using it well, a semi-public figure to start using it well and challenge others to come in, and it would have a potential to grow. But it has to stay super, super simple. People have to use it right, but that means smart people are using it. But if people are using it right, I think the result is going to give people something that is super valuable and does not exist today.
Okay, my personal intuition is this modulo transformations, which took me some time to understand. This is not very far from IBIS, except IBIS is a bit more analytical on pros and cons. IBIS is grokkable by a lot of normal people with some effort, maybe a bit more than yours. But I think that, for example, it took me time to understand how you phrase questions, so it might be the same in the wash. The concrete experience with IBIS, and there's nothing that leads me to believe that it would be different with your model, is when you have somebody writing the map in a crowd, like people are debating, somebody writes the map as it happens. Super helpful. Super helpful, because then people, instead of screaming at one another, start saying, oh, I disagree with this point, and it becomes this point out there instead of your point. Right. And it changes the psychological dynamic, and people become much more amenable to having a conversation about, okay, why do you believe this, and why is that important to you, and all the diffusing. So it's worked. And whenever people are let loose on it without curator, librarian, secretary, you get a mess. You get a big ball of yarn, and too many, because it works by accretion, you get too many options, people harping on their little point of detail, and it becomes something
it's kind of Kealu-ish.
And you get something nobody wants to read, ultimately.
Agreed.
And I may be missing something, but for me, what's missing there is making refactoring part of the practice. Making refactoring of, okay, these things differ on details. Let's blend them into one, and let's say explicitly, this is the next level of detail. And that's a curation action, which I think can be crowdsourced. I don't think you need a librarian, but you need people to take responsibility for this refactoring action. It's just like there's people doing gardening in wikis, and I think this is important, making this refactoring part of the process. And
I actually don't disagree with that. I think that I probably put that as what the crowd can do is put pressure on advocates to factor different ways, and that yeah. But the people have to own their own thing. They have to own their own structure.
Yes,
they have to
I
own
agree.
their own expression. And one of the things, just to say something too about the accretion thing, is exactly why it has to be individualized, is because you can come into, like, if you looked at this thing without any filter, it would be a complete god awful mess. But I should be able to come into this, put on my whatever Joe advocate filter, where I'm only looking at his stuff, and it will be beautiful if he's done a good job. It will,
right.
It'll be super organized. It'll represent, it'll address every major question that's been put to him, that, you know what I mean? Like, it's all there. And I think people will be attracted to the people that do it well. There'll be an incentive to do it well. In the current world, the incentive, there's a strong incentive to obfuscate. There is strong rewards for making things less clear. And I don't think that drives people as much as people think it does. I actually think the vast majority of people out there, obviously there are bad players, but the most sincere advocates often for things truly believe they're right, truly believe they're in the cause for good, truly believe their worldview that they see so clearly is absolutely right. And if they could only get everybody else to see it. But the tools create, well, I'm preaching to the choir.
This is extremely important. I see the point of seeing one person's point of view clearly. I totally agree. I think it's extremely important to be able to
be able to switch and jump. You flip the little switch. Okay, I see Paul's goggles now. Put on, I'm looking at the Brett Weinstein filter. Now let me set right next to that the Sam Harris filter. Oh, look, Sam hasn't even engaged in this question. Well, what the hell, Sam? 700 people have challenged you to engage on this underlying question that's obviously key. Why wouldn't you? What's going on? That's to me, the interface is there in my mind. I'm gonna have to create the interface and bring it back and show you guys.
Send me the sketches.
What I'm interested in is the problem is that's two people I know. How do I get a global view? Here is the diversity of points of view on these issues in a way that it's not a mess. Knowing that underlying data structure is certainly a mess, but
all you can do is switch the channels, is switch the filters.
Yeah,
just like Twitter, you can jump to. I want more than that. Give me a random somebody saying yes here, and I'm just going to read some yeses and see what jumps out at me.
No, and I want synthesis.
Yeah, what's that?
I want more than that. I want synthesis. That's what I'm really interested in.
It's impossible.
I don't think so.
Yeah, well, try
that's
Wikipedia.
The point. What?
I mean, Wikipedia is synthesis, and it's garbage on anything controversial.
It's actually useful on some controversial things, not on others.
Useful. It's not a clear synthesis of reality. It's incredibly biased. I mean, I know this from, if you read Brett Weinstein's a thing on it's just lies. It's literally just lies, because I know him well enough to know that it's lies. But many people will take it as truth. So
right.
To me, that's pretty close to the definition of garbage for a source that's supposed to,
to be neutral. Fair enough.
Be a source of information.
But what I'm saying is, I think it's possible. I agree. Wikipedia failed at it. Fair enough. But I think it's possible to do it. And the key to that is to decompose claims into different components that can be composed, that are compositional. And let me elaborate on that. I agree with you that
I
questions
think we're
are
both doing that. Yeah.
When I say we should do this, there's a lot of subclaims. I'm saying if we do this, the most likely outcome is that, and that is good for that reason. So there's a causal link and a criterion evaluation. There's many things wrapped into it. Now, if we speak about causal links, causal link assertions compose into a causal graph, which has nothing to do with the value graph. The value graphs compose into aggregate preference. The epistemic graph composes into the feasibility graphs. There's all these different things that we know how to compose when they've been separated. If we help people to do this decomposition, I think it can be elicited, not easily, but it can be. Then we get these pieces that compose well into a global view. But that means identifying similar but different, different but similar positions and doing the refactoring I speak about so that you can do this kind of analysis. And that can be done.
Yeah, I think that's, I don't think I hope you're right. Let's just say that. I hope you're right.
That's a perfectly reasonable answer. But I understand what you're saying.
I don't think you are, but I hope you're right. I have to say it. No, I just don't think. Yeah,
fine. I don't have it yet.
I just feel I've been not as far as you down that road, but I think that that's just not how people are or how people work. So just we can just draw a clear difference there that is good to understand. Where I like the idea of a democratic concept. I like the idea, but I like it as individuals' own explanations. People can share positions for sure, but your reason for being there is almost like a fingerprint. It's hard to find two people that would give identical explanations for why they're in a place. And what I like the idea is people saying that one's good enough for me. That's as close as I can find to an explanation that works for me, and let the gravity form around things that way. So it's not we're trying to write an explanation that incorporates all the best from everybody else's explanations. I just don't see that happening. But having explanations that work for large groups of people, or 3 or 4 explanations, all for the same position. You know, the old baptisms. And
I have an answer to that, but I have to leave for an appointment. So I'm absolutely sorry. But I have something. Let's continue that conversation because I have an answer to that. But quickly, I agree on personalized things with a voice. But I think if you decompose them, it allows people to pick, oh, I agree with this, I disagree with that, I disagree. And my fingerprint is a combination of.
I 100% agree with that. Yeah, 100%.
Okay, ciao. Sorry.
Yeah. Bye. I just wouldn't try to do that for the record since it's being recorded. He'll come back and watch, right? I wouldn't try to do that technically. I wouldn't try to say, I take this piece from yours and link it to mine, and I take this piece from yours and link it to mine, because it gets too complicated. Real people aren't going to do it. But if I read something in yours and say, oh yeah, that's an influence to me, I might adjust my explanation accordingly. And maybe I'm linking some underlying question that you brought in. So it's not that we don't share linkage. It's just that what I'm sensing in so much of what I've seen here and some other places is a really thorough, analytical, academic breakdown of the components of argument, and I think you take too many steps down that path and you lose everybody, which is kind of what I started with. So maybe I'm potentially trying to hold the ground a little further in the other direction and oversimplifying some things.
I think there's a consensus among us that the academic, I guess there's one person in here that's modeling the academic thing. He's working with the professor. But yeah, in general, that's too far to go to do that kind of breakdown. And that's also kind of where we got with progressive formalization. So it'll be interesting. Yeah, there's like, there are several things that we hope to come out, and different ones of us are putting that explicitly in the model or not. Like you're saying, you can do this in your system. It's just not like hard coded in the process to do that. It's more in how the tools are used, and the tool encourages that, but it doesn't like require it or have an explicit button to do it.
Right. Have a highly generalized framework and let best practices evolve within that framework.
Yeah.
So someone highly academic should be able to use this. Someone someone in a legal setting should be able to use this to break down a legal argument. But also somebody should just be able to go in there and say, you know, I was going to use some really, I don't know, people should just be able to go in and give, let's just say, not very well thought out opinions with not very good reasons, and use and feel like they're expressing themselves in here too, because, you know, I am a yes on everybody dyeing their hair. I'm trying to think of anything that wouldn't sound political, but but anyway, you know, you could have the craziest position on the craziest thing and give the craziest explanation, and there it is, and that's you. That's what you think, and other people can challenge you. So it could be, you know, it ought to be something, like I said, to me, fifth graders should feel comfortable with it if it's going to be something that has any real impact, because people should feel drawn to expressing themselves in it, and then finding people that are doing a particularly good job at expressing themselves in it because they're making sense. Because I do think people are drawn to people who make sense if they're able to express, you know, the good communicators. People are fooled easily, but I think good sense wins if it gets a chance, you know, most of the time.
So I think we've been talking for, I don't know how long it's been, but we will.
An hour and a half.
Yeah.
Oh man.
So now might be a good place to kind of close down. But Paul, that was great. I'm sure we'll have a lot more conversations about all these things.
Will you share my contact information, Bentley?
Yeah, I mean, I could put it in our Slack channel.
Okay.
Also,
I would like to, I mean, I know I haven't heard much from the other guys, but I'm curious if anyone's interested in talking about this or related things more. I think I got to be careful to come in. I'm bad at I talk too much. So, but
we have several people
obviously,
like that, so don't worry about it.
Yeah, I know. And I'm passionate about this stuff, but I'm either doing nothing about this or it's going to be built in 6 months. So I'm trying to decide which of those two things it is right now. So if any of you are interested in helping or shaping or talking me out of it or anything like that, I would love to hear from you.
So yeah, I'd suggest to, if you can, to come into our Slack channel. We do have some conversations outside of the meetings in there.
Okay.
I put a link in the email to you. And that'd be a good place to make sure that everyone can find you. Our meetings right now are Wednesdays and alternating Wednesdays and Fridays, although very few people have been showing up on the Friday one, so maybe we'll move it to Wednesday. We kind of move it around, but the only way to keep track of that is pretty much through the Slack channel. But yeah. Yeah, I'll go ahead and once everyone leaves, this meeting will be posted, and then I'll go in and clip off a little beginning and the end for you too, and they'll be available. But yeah, would hope to see you around, Paul.
Well, thanks a lot. Thanks for the invite and all the listening.
Yeah, thanks for sharing. It's good to
Absolutely. Thanks for sharing.
Thank you guys. Nice to meet y'all.
Bye, everybody.
See you.
Bye.